Okay. Let's see. Right, well, I've been doing some calibrations on the printer. I don't know, all alive. Nothing's moving. Keep forgetting my own stream lags out on me. Ah, it's working, yeah, right. Right, I thought I'd do this video. I've been making some upgrades to the printer, well, tightening the tolerances actually. Now, here's a nut and bolt. It's quite a big one. It's a nut and bolt I printed, and I actually smoothed it out with some acetone. Quite big, so I wanted to do a big one, and it works. I mean, the best, you see, that's testing the accuracy of the printer. I personally think it's better to do nuts and bolts, because if you can get them to fit right, which this does, and it fitted first time actually. The guy that designed this particular nut and bolt obviously got his tolerances right for his printer, because I didn't really have to do any changes. I just used a bit of acetone, and I actually used it to lube up the thread, and I screwed it on while the acetone was wet. Then I took it off and unscrewed it while it was nice and wet, and then I let it dry. And it works great. Now that's the big one, which I did. Let's see if you've got me on there now. Right, I looked on Thingiverse for all these different nuts and bolts. Now here's another one. It looks more like a corkscrew. Now the guy that designed this one, he didn't get the tolerances quite right, so I had to use some acetone. But it's very wide. As you can see, it's very wide corkscrew type thread. That's a lot bigger. I had to smooth that one out with acetone, and it wouldn't go on at first, because the guy that designed it, he said on the Thingiverse, it says pretty useless. He did advertise it as useless, but a novelty, which meant it didn't fit. Well, I made it fit. I got it to fit by using some acetone, so that's that. Then we have this one. This is another corkscrewy type nut and bolt. They're all quite big, these. And it's a tighter fit, and that one works. It's a bit tighter than the other one. Now, I went down in size. I descaled this corkscrew one, which is, I think, that one. this one here, I scaled it down, and it was tight as well, and I had to use a bit of acetone to. It's very tight actually, but it works. Now, I did actually scale down this one to a tiny little thing, and it didn't work. The threads were completely gone. You know, there was no threads. There was the one, when I say it's small, I'm talking about this small, but yeah, I did something that small, and there's no threads. But this corkscrew one, I scaled that right down to this, and I was able to get this one to fit. It does actually fit after I use a bit of acetone to help it go on to begin with, but it works anyway. So, oops, don't want to lose my nut. Now, if I was to do this one with these very fine threads at that size, it won't work. The threads just disappear, they're not there anymore. So that's why I need a 0.2mm nozzle. So I've ordered a 0.2, and I'm going to put the 0.2 on and see if I can actually make some nuts and bolts, well, at sort of that size-ish, you know, this one. Because I'm not going to go that really tiny one, because I don't think I'm going to have much chance of that, to be honest with you. But I think I can get one of these down to this size. If I had a 0.2mm nozzle, I should be able to get it down. Because basically 0.2 is half the it's twice the resolution of a 0.4, right? Well, the printer's doing quite well. I mean, when you see that how well this came out, I mean, the actual thread is about the same size as my finger, as you can see. Right, so it is quite big and chunky, as this nut and bolt, but it gives me a lot of hope. It means that if I have a 0.2, I should be able to get half the size. This should be able to go down even more, half the size of what this is. So this thread, the diameter of this thread measures 14mm. That's the thickness of the bolt. So I should be able to get it down to let's see, about 7mm. So in theory, I should be able to go down to about around about that diameter, which is about 7.6. So if I have a 0.2 nozzle, I should be able to get it down to that, right? So we'll have to find out when I get the new nozzle in there, which I've ordered. I've also been thinking of one about belts. Now, the belts on the printer were quite thin, and one of them was about to break, and I'll show you what I mean. I took this belt off the printer because I actually 3D printed some gears, right? But now I've ordered some from China, but I'm going to be waiting about probably a month or so. Oops. Because the gears that I actually got, the metal ones, these are the wrong size. I have some metal gears, but they're the wrong diameter, too big. Right. Oh, flipping thing. Hang on a minute, I've got alerts on me. Just a minute, let me just throttle that down again a minute. Right, I can't see the chat. No, the nuts and bolts are just for Alan. The nuts and bolts are just to test the resolution of the printer. Now, I printed these cogs which drive the belts, right? Right. They engage the belt. They've got little teeth on. Now, believe it or not, I've actually got one on the printer right now. I'm actually using one of these on the printer right at this very moment, because I took the metal one off, the original metal one. Oh, where's it gone? That's weird. Oh, it's down the floor. This is the original metal one that was on the printer, right? Now, if you look, it's very narrow. It's for a 3.5mm belt. The green one, which I printed, is for a 6mm wide belt. Now, I couldn't put the 6mm wide belt on the metal one because it was too narrow. So this is the original belt that I took off. Now, if you look at the original belt, you'll notice that it's very worn. Now, the width changes as you go along. Now let me just hold it like this. Now, if you look at the width, as I pull it along, you'll notice it changes thickness. That's because the belt was worn, badly worn. Actually, there's some writing on it. I've been trying to order one of these belts. I couldn't find it anywhere. I just didn't realise there was writing on it. Oh, so it's LL025MXL. This belt. Anyway, no worries. I'm going up to 3mm belt. Now, this piece here is very worn. There's a big right here. Right, there's a big part that's worn out. It looks like it was getting so thin it was causing some issues with the accuracy of the belt, because the belt was so worn that it's starting to lose its. It was jumping. I was jumping cogs, right? Now, as you see, this belt is 3.5mm. It fits on this cog, right? Now, when I fitted the new belt, I had to cut a piece off the new belt because it was too long. This is a piece of the new belt, right, that I cut off. Now, if you look at the new belt, you'll see what I mean. It's a lot wider than this cog. So I couldn't use this cog because it's too wide. So I've 3D printed this cog, and it fits perfectly. Right. Let me just put this on my screwdriver a minute. As you can see, it grips very well, but it's hard to move it because it's really stiff as the belt. But it turns the cog. It's a nice snug fit. Anyway, I've got one of these cogs on my printer right now, and it's actually in use right now. Exactly the same as this one, which I printed on the printer. So, ironically, I printed a cog on the printer which I'm using to drive the new belt because I'm waiting for the metal one to arrive from China, and as I said, that's going to be another month, but it's doing quite well. The accuracy is very good. I printed two of them out just in case I broke one or split one, because yeah, it was a nice snug fit. And I took the grub screw that was in this metal one and stuck it in the plastic, and it fit perfectly. So I've got these off Thingiverse actually. So it's a standby cog, and I made another one a lot wider. I made a much wider one, just to, as you can see. So yeah, these plastic cogs are only temporary because they won't be as accurate as a metal one, obviously. There's a few bumps, a few little imperfections which I smoothed out with acetone, but yeah, it works anyway. That's the thing. It's not jumped a step yet. It hasn't jumped. The belt hasn't jumped a notch on the new cog yet. But I have noticed occasionally that the old belt on the bottom for the turntable, the actual heated bed, that belt has jumped because it's the thin stuff like this. And this thin stuff has just had its day. I mean, I've been looking at it quite closely, and some of the teeth are just very worn. Well, I don't know if you can call them teeth, but you can see it's got some worn areas where the teeth are very thin, or they look rounded, like where they've been slipping. It's supposed to be glass. It's supposed to be fibre reinforced rubber, right? Well, it's obviously been on there a long time because it's been wearing out. So anyway, I've ordered some more of this 3.5mm. This is the 3.5. You see how much better that is. I mean, it's much more defined gears on there, you know, versus the old belt. Right, you can see how it's got a lot of. I put a bit of French chalk on it to try and slow the wear down, but yeah, this is how it's day. So anyway, so when the new nozzle comes, I'll be able to do some more bolt tests, you know, printing smaller bolts to improve the resolution. Yeah, so, but yeah, the strength of the smaller bolts they won't be as strong. Yeah, but as I said, the only reason why I'm printing smaller bolts is because it's giving me it's helping me to determine the accuracy of the smaller scale sizes, you see. So I can also determine. I also found out actually by putting this plastic cog on, right, the diameter of this pulley is very slightly smaller than the original metal one, right? As a result of that, I think, is it my XY axis? I'm not sure, hang on. Was it my, well anyway, no, my X axis, I think it's X axis or something, is slightly smaller, the gap between the ends, than it was before, because I did a test print, and that's only because I'm using this plastic one substitute for now, but once the metal one comes it should be back to standard. But I noticed that it was actually about 0.3mm shorter in travel than it was with the metal one. It goes to prove what a difference these cogs do. That's the reason why I couldn't use these cogs, because these new cogs in here, because the diameter is much greater, so I would have to change the firmware for the steps, you know, which is something I don't want to be doing right now, because this these cogs that these pulleys, whatever, because their diameter is wider, the travel is much bigger. It would require a much bigger bed, and I can't do that. So I actually ordered these, and they were the wrong size. So I'm not using them, but they'll still come in handy as what do you call it? Free spinning, you know, tensioners, whatever. You know, where the belt goes around to the other side and comes back. I could use it as on the bearing instead of the bearing or something, but anyway, there's no point. The bearings work fine. So anyway, that's just a little update on what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just testing the tolerance of the printer, how accurate it can print and everything. And obviously, the smaller I get things, the more errors will show up to do with the azimuth and the alignment of the printer. I might have to fine tune that a bit as well, but I don't know yet. I'll see I'll find out what my measurements are when I start printing smaller stuff, but it might not be significant, you see. But the new belt is working great right now. I'm printing a box at the moment, something I got off Thingiverse, and I don't know if I can show you that, but you'll see the new. Oh, is it saying I'm offline? Just a minute. Hang on a minute. just see if I can, what's going on with it. Give me what's going on. I think I might have messed it up. Just a minute. I'll just stop the stream a minute.